Ah! Oh, my God! That scared the hell out of me! Oh my God! Look, a video game is a video game, and everybody knows that, but that doesn't mean that some of them don't actually terrify you. What is up, everybody? Chaos here. Today, we're gonna go over those games, those ones that scared you so bad that you may put the controller down and never actually finish the game. Drop a like, and let's kick it off with the Resident Evil 2 remake. Now, a good horror game can make for an awesome, unique experience, but not everybody makes it through them, and Resident Evil 2 Remake is a perfect example. If you go back and play the original Resident Evil 2, there is a good chance it won't be that scary to you. However, if you fire up the remake, that is an entire different story. The 2019 RE2 Remake completely reworked the gameplay, infinitely improved the visuals, and cranked up the immersion by 1,000. It made for a unique and terrifying survival horror game. While it does maintain a little bit of the cheese and campiness from the original, the remake is one of the scariest games to come out in years, especially if you've ever met Mr. X. Now, it may not be the scariest Resident Evil game ever made, but it is certainly deserving of a spot on today's list. And you let me know in the comment section, what is one scary game that made you just crap your pants? Let's stick with Resident Evil at number 9. That's right, let's keep the train going with RE7. Now, this one was released in 2017, and it was the franchise's return to form after a bunch of subpar action-oriented installments that made people feel like Capcom had lost sight of what made the series good in the first place. RE7 toned everything way down, greatly decreasing the scope and ultimately making the experience feel more intimate. You're no longer some special agent going after an evil corporation. You're just a random guy in a random place while you're trying to outrun various monsters and evil cannibals while using materials you can find. Now, there's still a bit of the signature Resident Evil campiness and cheesy dialogue, but for the most part, this was a brand new experience, and it was definitely one of the scariest games of the year. So if you never got to play RE7, go back and play it. If you haven't played any of these games before, don't worry. This game's story is pretty much unrelated to the rest of the franchise, so you're not really missing anything. And if you've ever seen the movie Hills Have Eyes, well, you'll understand. Next up is Five Nights at Freddy's. Just about everybody has played this game at one point, but how many people have actually finished it? I wonder if there's a stat out there somewhere that tells us the percentage of the FNAF players actually finishing the fifth night, because I'm willing to bet it's less than 5%. Five Nights at Freddy's came out in August of 2014. It had you playing as the nighttime security guard at a Chuck E. Cheese style pizza place where the animatronics come to life and roam around the building in the darkness. Now, you have to keep an eye on them. You try to keep them out of the security room by using the most impractical doors ever built. And the experience, it was terrifying. Now, it's hard to really consider this game super scary now because of its overexposure, but it was terrifying when it first came out. Due to the immersion, the scares, and the plain difficulty of the game, hardly anybody finished it. So you tell me, did you ever beat Five Nights at Freddy's? And if so, how many tries did it actually take you to do it? Alien Isolation. Now, following the extremely disappointing Aliens Colonial Marines, everybody knows the story. People were pretty unsure if there would ever be a good game based on this property IP, right? Well, thankfully, Creative Assembly came along in 2014. They gave us one of the best survival horror games in years and arguably the best Alien game ever made. Unlike the other Alien games, Isolation focused on one alien that stalks you around a large space station, just like in the first Alien movie by Ridley Scott. And if you haven't seen the movie, well, shame on you. Now, there's a few rogue androids roaming around the ship as well, and you can do a bit of combat against them, but whenever the alien comes into play, the game immediately becomes one of the scariest of its time. If you're a fan of sci-fi horror or very atmospheric games, go play Alien Isolation. If you haven't seen Ridley Scott's Alien, you need to watch that this Halloween season. How about System Shock 2? One of the most influential horror games of all time, and not many people have even played it. This game was released in '99 for the PC, and it had you playing as a soldier in the year 2114. You were called into a massive spaceship to investigate the outbreak of a strange virus. Now, the gameplay is a mix of survival horror and traditional RPG elements, and it encouraged exploration and leveling up your skills while hunting for tools and weapons, all while the story slowly moves forward in a really natural way. System Shock 2 is praised for everything: gameplay, story, atmosphere, and it may be considered one of the best horror games ever made. And the sound design, it would give you chills just walking around this ship and listening to the soldiers and the enemies that you encountered. And the gradual raising of the stakes is awesome. You can still get System Shock 2 on Steam pretty cheap, so give it a try if you want a horror game that will keep you occupied and terrified. Speaking of terrified, Silent Hill 2. Now this isn't a traditional horror game, and that's what makes it so special. You play as a man searching for his wife in a strange town, which is inhabited by monsters, and as you learn more about your backstory in the town you're in, the story gets more and more disturbing. The gameplay of Silent Hill 2 is much more about the atmosphere and the world building than the actual jump scares. Now this isn't a game where you're going to be getting jump scared all the time, but rather a game where you're going to be getting more and more tense as time goes on until you actually have to shut it off because you feel like someone is in your house watching you. Now despite the fact that it's coming up on 20 years old, it still has some of the best atmosphere in a video game ever made, and it does a fantastic job of really getting into your head and under your skin as the story progresses. So even though Silent Hill 2 is widely considered to be the best horror game ever, I'm going to put it at number 5 because it's not as aggressively scary as other games on this list. It's more creepy than scary, and the story is the main focus, while other entries on the list will give you constant scares. Condemned Criminal Origins. Now, I've mentioned this game a few times on the channel, and just about anyone who has played it will tell you it's an underrated gem of a game. It was released for the Xbox 360 in 2005, and then the PC the following year, and it was a survival horror game where you played as a detective trying to get to the bottom of a series of murders. Sounds normal, right? But the more you go through the game, the more you realize that things aren't quite as straightforward as you initially thought. The atmosphere is terrifying, and it's claustrophobic. The combat is almost all melee focused, which forces you to use improvised weapons like wooden planks and broken pipes. Now, the slow-paced combat mixed with the atmosphere and the constant twists and turns in the story, it makes for a unique horror game that not a lot of people actually finished. Definitely give Criminal Origins a go if you like horror games, but you like that more grounded in reality offer on it. It's terrifying. Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly. Now, Fatal Frame is a series that had a lot of promise, and while the first 2 entries were good, it's fallen off the radar, okay, completely. Most people will tell you the second game was the scariest, and it's definitely deserving of a spot. It was released in late 2003 for the Xbox and the PS2, that's right, the OG consoles, and it was designed to have a heavier emphasis on the story due to many people not actually finishing the first game because it was too scary, and it didn't really have much of a story. Fatal Frame 2 had you playing as twin sisters exploring a haunted town while using their cameras to document their findings, and when the spirits started getting hostile with you, you have to use your camera to catch them and perform exorcisms and get to the bottom of the town's history. The gameplay, it was unique. It forced you to look through your camera if you wanted to see spirits, but put the camera down if you wanted better mobility and special awareness. The game got good reviews, and many consider it to be one of the scariest games ever, so if you can dig up an old copy laying around, or maybe if you have an emulator, give it a go. PT, rest in peace, man. PT was the demo of all demos. It was the demo for Silent Hills before Konami decided to pull the plug on it following their fallout with director Hideo Kojima. In PT, you played as a man walking through a hallway of a house over and over. Just little subtle changes every time you walk through. You learn more about the world gradually, and eventually you come face to face with Lisa, an evil creature that is tracking you down. Now, Lisa's design and AI was extremely unpredictable. It made the game extremely tense and terrifying, and the atmosphere of this 20-minute demo was leagues better than countless full-length horror games out there, and it was just a demo. It was a shame that the game got canceled and pulled off the PlayStation Store, but thankfully, some passionate fans have managed to recreate it on the PC, so if you go do some digging, you can still find it and play it. Just make sure you have a set of fresh underwear on. And at number 1 today, happy Halloween, everybody. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. There was no doubt. Widely considered to be the scariest game ever made. It was released for the PC in 2010, and it quickly gained popularity thanks to its unique game design and its custom stories that added to the replay value. It also gained a ton of popularity thanks to the various YouTubers playing it, and since it was ported to the PS4 and the Xbox One and even the Switch, well, you can get it anywhere. In the main story, you played as a man with no memory who finds himself in a massive castle trying to figure out how he got there and how to get out. Now, there's no combat at all in Amnesia, and you may think that's boring, but it's not. You either run away or quickly find a place to hide, and the tension and the atmosphere are unmatched in this game, especially thanks to its sanity system, which requires you to stay in the dark for certain periods, since you can't look at monsters for too long without going insane, but you also can't stay in the dark too long, so you have to fight this constant battle between staying in the dark or taking your chances with the monsters. Plus, on top of all that, with the custom stories made for the game, you're pretty much never going to run out of content. If you've never played Amnesia, this should be at the top of your scary game playlist, especially for the Halloween season. And there you have it, my friends. Those are 10 games that scared you so bad, maybe you didn't finish them. It's okay, Circle of Trust. You can let us know. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. There is another video on the screen right now. You guys go check that out, and I will see you over in the comment section of that one.